Welcome to the space between. Presence is at the forefront of many conversations in the spiritual world. When we are present, we can feel into whatever emotions are coming up for us. In a world that thrives on distraction and fear, being present is a profound act. But what is presence? And why is it important to feel into all the things happening in our lives? Christina Walker joins us again to discuss this very important theme. Her work in energetics and health, combined with her personal path, has led her on an amazing journey towards true presence. She shares how presence through heart coherence has led her to find her true essence and a deeper love for herself. Finding presence in our lives is a revolutionary act. These current times of dismantling are calling us to live in the present more than ever before. Join us as we connect through conversation. Welcome to the Space Between. I'm Alyson Rixner, and I'm very happy to welcome back Christina Walker, our esteemed repeat guest on the Space Between. Welcome back, Christina.
Thank you.
I
love this podcast.
Thank you so much for being a part of it. And I have to say that, and I've shared this with you and I want to share this with the audience, I have received beautiful, beautiful words and thoughts about our time that we've spent in the space between together. And it's really resonating with people and your life path and just the way you look at the world and how you are so willing and able to share and bring folks in to your knowledge and your understanding of all of it. I just want to say thank you from not just me, but from them.
Oh,
I'm getting amazing feedback.
I'm so glad to be of help for them.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is all about.
Yes.
When we think about the space between and what does it mean, it really is this interesting time that we're in when a lot of knowledge and understanding of the things that we can't see or touch or feel that are coming online. And people are really waking up to not everything is the regular eye, right?
Yes.
Doesn't meet the regular eye. So today we're going to talk about presence. It's a big one. I'm very excited to dive into this topic with you.
Great.
It's definitely something that has changed my life. I do believe that presence and trying to manage that state of being is something that I'm going to really, I don't want to say work on because that sounds negative, but I will continue to make it a priority because I believe that it's the key to so many things. And we alluded to this in our previous episodes of self-love and energy because it is all linked. So, Christina, I know that you've introduced yourself to the folks before, but love to hear again, who are you and anything you want to share about yourself?
So I've been a nurse for about 40-something years, and a tragic car accident put me on this path of healing and energetics because I had that near-death experience, and I knew there was more than what we see here in the physical world. And so each episode that I'm bringing is just a little bit more of my own internal self-growth and making peace with myself and just to give your love, give love to people.
Yeah. It's all about love. And
all about love.
Talk about that. It's a thread that exists in every episode that we do.
I feel love heals all.
It's beautiful and very true. And people say it's cliche, but I'm thinking as time marches on that the cliches are really the only thing we can count on in life. Well, it's true.
Well, being a nurse, I've seen it too. Yeah. How people heal with love, and it's people loving you, and then also you loving yourself, and then you loving the people around you. So it's this whole circle of love. And if you can hold that energy, it's very healing.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the space between, and we talk about presence and we talk about a lot of different topics, but specifically with the way that things are today, I usually mention some narratives, and I'm going to read the definition in a minute. I chose specifically not to talk about a narrative of presence because I do think that this topic transcends any time or space that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of the most important things that we can all focus on to not only make the change in ourselves that we want to see, but really impact change in the world, which we've talked a lot about in other episodes of the podcast. What I will say is the one thing that did come up for me when I started preparing for the episode was that there are so many things in this world and in our lives that really work against us being present, whether that's with ourselves or the people in our lives. And we see this with everything from social media to all of the chatter that goes on. And it's tough times that we're in. And there is so much disconnection. The opposite of presence could be disconnection in a way, right? You're not present, you're not with yourself. And that was a big reason why I came up with the podcast in the first place. And we've been disconnected as a human species for a very long time. It just seems to be getting a little bit more intense. So I didn't really want to bring up any narratives, but I'll read the definition. So there was actually two, which I thought was interesting, from the Oxford Dictionary. So the definition of presence is, number one, being in a particular place at a particular time. That makes sense, right? Your physical presence. And number two was a powerful aura associated with someone or something, which I was like, yay, Oxford.
Yes.
I think they might have gotten it right for once. I was very surprised. So I thought that I saved that as a surprise for you. I was like, wow,
yes.
actually, that resonates and makes sense. So we always talk about the spiritual overview, and then we'll kind of get into your specific areas of presence and what you want to discuss today. So one of the things, too, that I wanted to mention is that we have to be careful when we look at things like astrology and all of the healing modalities, because if you're looking externally and you're not in the present moment, even something that seems to be helpful spiritually or energetically can pull you out of presence. And if you're looking too much into the future, if you're someone that reads your chart and is like, ooh, what's going to happen tomorrow? Ooh, what's going to happen next month? Then you're not living in the moment. You're living in the future. And the other thing, too, is that mindfulness practices, meditation, all of that is good, right? But if you are not in your heart and in your core, those things probably aren't going to be as impactful and helpful as they could be. So I think today, and we're going to get into this, it really does start with presence and how can we become more present?
Yes.
So let's get started.
Okay.
So as far as, presence is concerned, I think the last time you were here, we talked about the word essence. And so why don't we start there?
Yes. And I love the fact that the word essence is actually in presence. So,
of course it is.
So it's your essence of what you're bringing into the moment.
Yeah.
And whatever it may be, in a conversation with someone, with yourself out in nature, at your job, it's just your essence. So Alex Gray, if we could show the book.
We have props today, guys.
Yeah, we have show and tell today. If I could get an idea of.
So this is Alex Gray, Sacred Mirrors, and we'll link it below, The Visionary Art of Alex Gray. So what is this book? Can you just tell us what we're looking at?
It's drawings of how he sees the energy body and the energy system. And it's an electromagnetic system.
Okay.
And this is like you say the aura, which was the definition. Well, this is it. So your electromagnetic system is what is your essence.
Yep.
Now you see, we have these lower chakras, and then we have the middle, and then we have upper chakras. Each of them has a frequency, hertz, electromagnetic frequency that they correspond with. So the more you go down, the more denser the hertz and the vibrations are. So 1, 2, and 3. And then here's the heart. So if you hand me the other
Yes.
piece of it. So this shows.
Hold it. Good.
You can see these are hertz. These are emotions. So how you know what you're emitting from your essence is by what you feel. This is all based on feeling.
Right. And emotion.
And emotions, yes. The emotion, energy, emotion,
Yep.
Correct. And if you're feeling anger, well, you're down to 20 hertz, which is slow. The slow vibrations are down here.
Right. And at the bottom, just in case people can't see this, right? Let's just explain it.
Yeah.
We've linked this in the self-love episode. We'll link it again.
Mm-hmm.
What we're looking at here is essentially, if you think about those denser emotions like shame, guilt, grief, fear, those are going to be towards the bottom.
Correct.
Here, right? So this is what you call the lower.
Yes.
Correct.
Lower chakras.
And then as you get up to neutrality, which is sort of in the middle, right?
Mhm.
As you get closer to the heart,
Yep.
then acceptance and love and joy is what's going to be the upper. And it's
And
all
then-
just vibration. And it all exists.
Yes. This is all vibration.
Right.
It's all energy, is frequency, information.
Right.
And the information is the emotion.
Yep.
So you can go in and it's like your own Geiger counter. You could go, oh my God, I feel so angry.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so you're sitting around down here,
Right.
but the goal is to always be in 4 and you're loving,
Right.
or
In your heart.
in your
space.
heart. Yep. Right in here. And then the heart actually will feed the love to this part of your body and to the upper part of your body,
Right.
which is where, more enlightenment and, peace and joy are all up in here. But for the day-to-day interactions, I feel the heart is the seat of consciousness because it's what you're feeling. It's
Right.
not what you're thinking, it's what you're feeling.
Right.
So having yourself be able to keep moving your own consciousness, because these are, emotions and thoughts,
Yep.
raising them into your heart chakra so that you can be in a loving state with people will be your essence. Oh, like
That's when you're present.
And your presence. Yeah. Because when you're in your heart, you're actively listening
Right.
to understand the person that you're talking to,
Right.
to feel the person you're talking, and to provide the love. I mean, it's with the love to be able to be with someone in their, basically like in their shoes,
Yeah.
The shamanic walk is knowing what someone has experienced is walking in their shoes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So to feel that love when you're with someone and then it just makes less conflict, more understanding, which is really what relationships I feel today need.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we spoke about, because we were talking about this, did you want to leave this out?
Oh,
Just in case?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things we were talking about when we were discussing this before
Mm-hmm.
was you had a bit of an aha moment, and you mentioned it when you were just going through the diagram, but I want to bring it, there you go, want to bring it back to, you said, here's your heart space,
Mhm.
right? And if you are in your heart space,
Mm-hmm.
presence,
Mm-hmm.
right? It radiates both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. I haven't read that. This was big and news to me. So can you talk a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
about that specifically?
Yeah. So O.G. Cameron found that 90% of the connecting nerve fibers ascend from the heart to the brain.
Wow.
So it's really your consciousness, 90% of the nerve fibers go from the heart to the brain is, that healing thoughts and love.
Right. And I think a lot of times I've always been told connect to the heart, connect to the heart, connect to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy. We're not trying to say that it's easy.
No, it's not.
It is a goal, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times I always felt like you needed to go like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This denser energy, ground, You can only be enlightened if you're grounded, right? You always have to start from the bottom up. But this really kind of turns it on its head for me, because if you're not in your heart, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. If you're not present and you're not in your heart, you're not going to be able, well, I don't want to say you're not going to be able to, but the chances of you actually being able to resonate with those upper chakras and those more enlightened spaces or whatever is probably thinner.
Yes. And, you know, when you raise it up, it's then that becomes the awareness, you know,
Right.
You're aware of the person sitting in front of you. You're aware of what you're thinking and feeling, and you're aware of what you're perceiving in the outside energetic world also.
Oh, right.
So having the awareness be with, I should say, like tag teamed with the frequency of love.
Right.
Kind of makes you see things differently. It's this, you're not seeing it with judgment. You're
Right.
not seeing it with hate.
It's
You're
not
seeing-
observation.
you're not
It's
se-
awareness.
Yes. You're not
which is
seeing
different.
it with, you know,
Right.
a jealousy. Your awareness to what's around you is centering in love.
Right. And that's another, I love doing these because every single episode I have another aha moment. That presence and awareness are completely connected.
Yes.
Because like I said, it's one thing to observe something. I can see that there's a glass of water on that table. Okay. I'm not resonating with it. I can see that this exists. I can observe these things. Most of us observe with judgment, but when you're aware, it's a very different thing. Can you talk a little bit about the presence and awareness connection? I feel like you've cracked a code. I'll be honest. I mean, it's like blowing my mind over here.
So, and I'll say, like, you and I are in conversation, right? Okay. And I am aware of what I am sensing, right? Okay. So where am I energetically? What am I feeling? What is my frequency?
Right.
Holding that, which so for me would be to be holding in the consciousness of
Right.
love.
Right.
Then I'm aware of you.
Right.
Okay. So what am I feeling coming from you?
In the present moment.
In the present moment, right. What is your essence?
Not something that happened last week with
Right.
us or 5 years ago with us, which is
Right.
happens a lot to people.
What's your what am I feeling your essence is right now?
Right.
In the moment. It's like people always say, I've walked in the room and I felt uncomfortable.
Yes.
Okay, so what does that mean? And you could be presenting me with anger, for example, right?
Right.
Now, I can choose, because life is all about choices. And I could feel that. Because then I start feeling the anger in myself. And I'm like, okay, so is that mine or is that hers? But we're having a conversation and I'm hearing the tone. I'm aware of what she's saying and I'm feeling it at the same time. So I know it's not from me. It's from you. And now this is the trick to stay in your loving frequency
Right.
and not be brought down into the lower frequency of the anger with you. And that's how people love that's how like birds of a feather flock together, where you feel you're understood and comfortable. If you're always with a friend who's complaining and you complain, well, then you feel like you're at home.
Yep.
It's very hard to be a complaining person when you're with a friend who loves you and won't go there with you.
That's very uncomfortable for the person that is living
Right.
in that.
In the
that-
complaining.
Right.
Yes.
That's, wow. Okay. That's a great way to explain it, because everybody knows there's people you vibe with and people you don't. And I think one of the things that you're saying is that if you and I are vibing, chances are we're sharing
Yes.
that energy or sharing that emotion, energy,
Yes.
and motion,
Yes.
or whatever. And then, of course, there's the things that we have in common that we like about each
Yes.
other. But this is such a different level
Yes.
of these interactions.
Yeah, and it
Right?
gets, yes, and so it gets frustrating for you because I won't complain with you. I'll always try to turn it into a positive and have you look at it from a different angle, right? And the complaining still comes.
Right.
And then you try again. And then there'll be a point where I will have to point it out.
Right. You're like, you know what? Had enough of this.
I've gently, like, I remember I said to one person, aren't you tired of being angry all the time?
What'd they say?
Yeah, but, right. Yeah, but.
An excuse or
yeah,
this is my reasoning. And people live on that. Also a vibration, also an energy.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it feeds the stress hormone, which feeds them. And it's
the cycle.
There's a whole cycle with anger and complaining.
Very
all
difficult.
the lower densities, there's a lot of neuro chemicals that go on with the body and the brain, and it gets fed that. And so it's an addiction almost. They'll keep it up.
Right.
Just to feed themselves that.
And then you have to break that with so many different ways.
Oh, yes.
Because it's in your cells,
Yeah,
it's in your energy, it's in your physical body, it's in all of it, right?
Yeah,
it becomes you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was there. I was in there. I lived it. I know. And then eventually I just said, why am I not feeding myself love?
Right.
Love heals all. I want to heal.
Yeah.
I want to get better. I want to leave this earth in a peaceful frequency. Now, if you want to leave this earth in peaceful frequency, and on this, you could see peace is all the way up here.
Right.
I got to go here first so I can bring it
Through
up.
the heart.
And bring it up. Yeah.
So when I think of the word peace or, any of those the word presence, the opposite of that is fear, which is on this chart. It's not quite guilt and shame. Guilt is so hard, and shame is it's such a difficult emotion to deal with. But I think in this moment, in the space between, there is an incredible amount of fear out there. And what would be your advice to someone that finds, and I still find myself from time to time getting caught up, and I know what to do. I've been working on this for 15 years on my spiritual path. But how would you recommend that someone begin, because I think everybody can resonate with fear. How can someone begin to turn that fear into their heart, into that heart space, to begin to regulate? Because ultimately it's a regulation.
Yeah. So, there's always two sides, right? Fear is courage. Love is hate. Black is white. There's the two sides
Polarity.
It's a polarity. And I'm not saying that polarity is not good. Fear is a healthy emotion, when there's danger, but to be in that frequency all the time also is it's like it also can burn out that electromagnetic neurochemical process in your body.
Right.
So
been there.
Yeah.
More than once.
So to feel the fear, and then you really have to identify, it's an awareness. What am I afraid of right now?
Right.
Okay. Is it happening to me right now, this second?
Usually not.
And then you just have to just feed it love. Because like I said, love heals everything. So whatever the reason is for the fear, just move it into love. Love that part. Love that thought. Love whatever is causing the fear.
Right.
Yeah.
And we talked about that on the shame episode, because again, looking at this chart, shame is the densest energy. And it's very difficult to move through that if you're not willing to accept those parts of you. And that's really, I think, where it starts, because we're told, and if anybody hasn't listened to the shame episode, it's amazing. What we're told is that that's bad. Guilt is bad. Shame is bad. Fear is bad. Well, okay, but what does that mean? That doesn't make it any less important to deal with than anything else in life. And so taking away the stigma, if that's the right word, of shying away or, putting that in your proverbial internal closet and shutting the door, that's how people get sick. That's how a lot of, things can happen to you in your life that are difficult when we're living in that vibration. It's not that you're bad. It's that it needs to be acknowledged and accepted before you can even begin to do anything about it.
Well, yes. And it's not like you're not going to react, because Dr. Joe Dispenza says it's not that we're not going to react.
We are going to react.
We're going to react because it's part of our genetic makeup as human beings, because we were cavemen in the back.
Fear's there so that you don't get eaten by a tiger, right?
Right. It's there.
Yeah.
And he said it's going to take many, many years for that genetic blueprint to be dissipated. Okay. So with that in mind, then he says, how long are you going to stay in the reaction?
Right.
So that's the question.
Right.
All right. I'm reacting. I'm feeling this and then. All right. How long do I choose to stay?
Right. Back to choice.
In this reaction.
Right.
And then, but for me, the way out of it was to feel love.
Right.
I was like, okay, that's 1, 2, and 3. Let me go to 4 and let me just feel love, feel, the peace inside my body. And it's, I equate love with peace. Like it's just this very calm, it's like sitting at the ocean, listening to the ocean, or being in the woods and listening to the wind.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, that is all love. It's nature, and nature to me is so loving. And so to just bring that essence and that feeling into your body.
Right.
And then I'm telling you, it works. Like then you're out of it.
Right.
And the more you become aware of what you're feeling and you move it into the other space.
Right.
It gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
It does. And I think the one thing that's important to mention is that we're never trying to tell somebody what to do here, right? We're having a conversation and hoping that people find connection with it. That's the whole point. But there are millions of ways to begin to acknowledge and work through the traumas that exist. So if you're afraid, let's just say you got robbed, right? We live in New York City, say, 10 years ago you get robbed and you walk past that street that you got robbed. You're not going to be able to sit there and just go, love. Like that's not possible. There's probably therapy. There may be some sort of like body work, right? Like the body keeps the score. We've mentioned, energetic modalities, and there's a healing episode that we've done on the podcast, going through that healing journey, acknowledging it, accepting it, healing from it, and then being able to not be so triggered that you can't get to love because you have done the work. You have been down every path. And now I think what's beautiful for the audience is here is an amazing human energetic being that has arrived at the place where you can say, and you can make that choice, I'm going to love because you've done the work.
Yeah.
And it's important that people understand that you can't just get it. There is a path, and everybody has a path to get to the place where they can be so aware and so present, because that's the whole point of the episode, that you can transmute. And it is it's like you're transmuting that frequency and knowing that I'm not the person that got robbed 10 years ago. That person that robbed me is no longer on this street. That takes time.
Yes.
And it's a process.
Yeah, because you can think it, and
cognitive.
So there's many ways for you to get triggered by something. The thought can come in, the energetic frequency vibration can come in,
right?
And you're like, okay, I'm thinking and feeling this, and then that the awareness is okay. That was the past. What's happening now in the present.
Right.
And then that's where you do the work in that moment to tell your thoughts and your body, okay, we're safe. Everything's okay here. That was then. This is now. And it is a process. It's an awareness process.
I'm so glad you brought up safety. I knew that there was something I was missing in this episode. See, I always say everything that's supposed to be said gets said. It's like it's so much bigger than us. There is such a safety in presence.
Yes.
And Dr. Joe talks about this all the time.
Yes.
Eckhart Tolle, many people have been talking about the present moment. Deepak, right? A lot of people have different ways in different books. Most of what happens to us in the present moment, we can deal with and we can handle. It's looking to the past and looking to the future that fucks us up.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that's ultimately what it is. And, you know, back to my analogy of you got robbed on the street, the chances of you getting robbed a second time on the same street is like none. And it's your body and your mind and all of those systems, right, that we're working within, going back to your graph that we're going to link. The present moment is the safest place to be.
It is. Yeah, it is.
I'm so glad you said safety.
It's amazing. Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Yeah. But it's a practice.
It's such
because your mind wants to go to the past. Your mind wants to go to the future.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of the essence and the presence is to be in the now. Yeah. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Beautiful book.
Yeah. You know, there's the intellectual part of it, but then there's the experiential part of it. And you could read anybody, but the practice is actually doing the experiential work.
Moment by moment.
Yeah. Moment by moment. And for me, the best way I learned was I would go home in the evening and I would say, okay, where in my day did I react? Where in my day was I not in my loving?
I'm in that now.
Yes.
That's and
that's what helps you to become aware and then you become even quicker. Then you become aware an hour later, or then you become aware, 5 minutes later. And the more you can, it's like this. And then you'll be able to, right in that moment, you'll be able to catch yourself. It won't even come out of your mouth.
Right. And life ebbs and flows, because there's been times, and I don't know how you feel, but there's been times that I feel so connected to the present moment. I'm very aware. I can catch myself, all the things you just said. And then there's sometimes when life just throws you a shit wave and you are knocked off and it's not so easy. So for me, and I don't know how you would respond to this, but for me, that's why I feel like presence is a practice that never ends, because like I mentioned in the beginning, there's so many energies and so many things that are trying to pull you out of the present moment for whatever reason. Doesn't even matter, right? That's planet Earth. We all chose to come back here. If it was easy, this wouldn't be the way it's set up. It's not meant to be easy. But that's the key.
Yes.
I think this is the key.
Yeah.
And I really do.
I don't know who said it once, but they said that, the road to enlightenment is not sitting on the mountain meditating. The road to enlightenment is living life.
Right. Right. There's another quote that says, if you want to know how enlightened you are, go home and spend a week with your family.
Yes. Yes, that's another one.
And there's other triggers, right?
Yeah.
And, I find the relationships closest to us are often the most triggering, right? And the people that we've chosen to walk our path literally side by side, those are the ones that are teaching you the most about how, I don't want to say how you're doing, but how far or how much more work you have to do to get back into the present moment.
Yeah.
It's definitely difficult. Safety. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So anything else you want to mention before we get to the last questions? I mean, that was amazing. I took so much away from this too. Every time I speak with you, I take so much away with that. I appreciate it.
No, I think that's a good beginning for everyone.
Yeah.
Because I used to work and I always thought it was coming from here.
Right.
And it didn't work. I didn't find my way through it until I went to my heart. Yeah. And that's when things started shifting for me.
Yeah. And there's a whole practice of somatics that's kind of like a new term in the spiritual set. And that is really working through the body to get into the heart space. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. There's a lot of meditations we can link. There's a couple meditations that I've done. I know there's a new one that you're really resonating with that we can link below. That's a great way. Also through movement and dance and just getting the energy out so that you're shedding the denser energies so that it's easier for you.
Writing music, singing.
Right.
I mean, whatever leads you up the mountain. There's so many paths.
There's so many paths.
Yeah.
And I definitely want people to feel that there is no right way. I know we talk about that all the time. There's no playbook. You have to figure it out for yourself.
You just have to read and experiment with yourself with what works and what doesn't work. Right. And you'll know that by how you're feeling and what's being mirrored back to you.
Right. That's true.
You know, you know, when I used to run operating rooms. Very stressful job.
I can't imagine. I saw it firsthand years ago. I don't know how you did what you did.
And because Dr. Joe talks a lot about stress. And so, you know, I had a little bit of PSTD after my car accident and stress. It was so much for my body. I would like explode. You know, the anger would be so much. And I actually had another one of those just a couple of weeks ago with friends.
Yeah.
And I remember my boss, she said to me, she said, not my boss, the director of nursing, because you're an amazing nurse, except for that one quality that I had when I couldn't handle the stress.
The pop-off, that's what I call it.
The pop-off valve, yeah.
Happens to a lot of us.
But it ruins relationships, that pop-off valve. And with so much anger in the world right now, I'm a little concerned of the pop-off valves, you know?
Yep.
So seeing that pop-off valve, that's what I have been working on since my car accident. This anger, frustration, anger, that whole loop. The neurochemical feeding, because, you know, when you're under stress and you're a nurse, you're constantly in that loop. I got out of that loop like in 2017. So I haven't been, my body, you slowly have to wean your body off of the adrenaline.
Right. Because our bodies are always trying to balance themselves. Well, so if that's what it thinks is normal when you're in that state.
Yes.
Out of presence. When you're in that state, your body's like, oh yeah, we're good. So this feels uncomfortable at first for many people that begin a path of presence and awareness.
Yeah. And
stick with it.
Yeah.
Stick with it.
The feeding yourself of love is amazing. That was, I was like, oh my God, this is the way out. That was my way out of the pop off.
Yep. And again, the polarity. There are two sides. And you've been traveling through the space between to get to the other side. See, it comes up again. So how would you say, well, thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So how would you say that your relationship with presence has changed? You mentioned it just before, right? You moved from anger, dealt with the emotions. When you look at the path over, 30, 40 years, however many years has it been, how would you say it's changed for you? I mean, obviously you're sitting here like resonating love. What would you say has been the biggest thing?
I want people to know it doesn't take that long. That's the first thing.
Right.
It took long for me because I lived in a environment as a nurse where I was constantly in that loop and I could not get out of it. It was when I stepped away from the adrenaline feeding neurochemical loop that my autonomic nervous system was able to calm down.
So interesting.
You have to be able to sit with yourself to do this work. and to go in and
You're in that
feel.
fight or flight.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
No,
That's
it's hard.
really-
It's difficult.
I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, it's
because we don't want people to feel like it takes 40 years. I mean,
No.
for some people it does.
Right.
And obviously everyone's still a work in progress, but that's a really good point.
And also not many people were working in this field. So I've been...
This is a long time ago when you started.
A long time. So I've been following everybody saying,
Well, you were also
thank you for figuring it out.
You were also blazing your own trail. I know you're trying to give everyone else the credit, but I mean, you've been that person for me. So just saying.
You're welcome.
So always the last question. Where do you want to see presence in the future in the world? What is your hope for this wildly important theme in our lives?
Well, you know, it always starts, you only have control over yourself. And it can only...
Amen to that.
And it can only start with you.
Yes.
So my prayer and hope and dream is that people start seeking love for themselves. That's the first place to begin, because I think it will fill a lot of emptiness, addictions, you know, always feeling that outside is going to fill inside, but it's not. That's not it.
It's an inside job.
It's an inside job. And it's not looking in the mirror and saying I love. It is a frequency. You have to feel the frequency.
It's not cognitive.
Now, if you want to know what it feels like, if you love your cat, that's it.
Yeah.
If everybody I think knows what that feeling of love is.
Externally, you can have that for yourself,
but that you could bring in whatever you're feeling out there. Just bring it in for yourself,
exactly,
and just stay in that frequency, because that's the frequency. Yeah.
And I've said this before. It doesn't take as many of us to change the world. And presence is the way out.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, in the present moment, things are generally okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the other times, right?
Yeah.
Those points in time. And I think if people can find that, everything that is around us will shift.
Yeah, and there could be conflict in the conversation with the person you're being present with, right?
Of course. You can remain in your frequency and still have a conversation with somebody.
Exactly. That's the point.
And that's the work.
Yes.
And figuring out how you do that is life-changing. That's when lives are changed. It's an inside job, just like any other frequency radiates outward. Mm-hmm. That's how we change the world.
I mean, our political scene right now it's
wild.
Well, that's it. You're seeing that in action when people can't even talk politics without getting there's so much conflict there.
Yep.
And if everybody was just in their loving state and trying to understand what the other person is saying, doesn't mean you have to agree with them.
Yeah.
It's just understand where that person is standing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, do it with love and walk away.
Right. And move out of the space of feeling attacked all the time. Again, back to the chart. We've mentioned it so many times, those denser energies. Yes. It is a choice to stay in that and allow someone to hijack your energetic frequency. And perfect, I definitely want to, and you and I talked about this a long time ago, talk about the collective unconscious in a future episode, because it is sometimes hard to discern, but you can practice presence. That's where it starts. And then the awareness kicks in. Well, that isn't mine, because I'm in my own energy.
Well, that's how you discern.
Yeah.
If you know where you're sitting in a loving energy and you're feeling this, then you
know where it's
not
coming.
Not me. Right. Yeah. And you just say, okay, that's where they are. This is where I am. We're okay. Everybody's safe.
Everybody's okay. Just for now. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I love this podcast.
So beautiful. I know that this will resonate with a lot of people. I want to thank the audience.
Yes, thank you for
joining us again at the Space Between. And just want to let people know that we're going to link. I think it's going to be a lot of links in the show notes. We have a lot of things to link. I've thought of a few things even that we didn't mention today. Okay. So maybe I'll have to do a link on my website of all the links. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But thank you so much for joining us on The Space Between.
Yes, thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe. We're getting a lot more views on YouTube. So hit that button, guys. You're going to start hearing from me more often. And follow the show on your favorite podcast app and social media. We'll see you next time in The Space Between. Thank you so much for joining us in The Space Between. We hope this conversation sparked connection for you. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who will find value. And make sure to tune into our next episode as we continue the journey into the core themes of our lives. We'll see you again in The Space Between.